there, friends. Welcome back to Scrap with Penny. Today I am revisiting week 1 of the Design with Concepts class that Allison Davis did because I am filing this under Challenge Accepted. This is a layout that I'm going to submit for the Kelly Bell Designs May Challenge. She is a digital / hybrid scrapbooking designer, and I found her through Lisa at Life and Layouts. Lisa did the most amazing March Madness playlist, and I caught a lot of it. I didn't find her until halfway through the month. Nicole at Coley Bean, she recommended her to me. And so long story short, I got sucked into hybrid scrapbooking, which I will tell you, it's reinvigorated my desire to scrap my Disney pictures because we go so often and it's so hard to keep reinventing the wheel with the black, red, and yellow color palette. So this layout is for that challenge. This is the sketch that I recommended the first time I did week 1. Which, gosh, I can't even remember now what that layout was. Maybe I did, Winnie the Pooh and hexagons. That's what I did. So this time I'm going to put the paper up top, and I'm going with 3 photos. I'm leaning more toward Allison's original sketch. And so yeah, so this is under Challenge Accepted. Oh, and so this was the March 2024 page maps. So my pictures are, gotta love an ice cold latte on Main Street. The challenge is to scrapbook Main Street, USA. And so I thought this would be a little bit of a clever story. And this is the quiet street, which up here, this is the Main Street Jewelers, and over here's the Emporium, and then this is the block with the Crystal Arts, and then Starbucks. So if you turn right down here, there's a nice little place to sit and have your cup of coffee. And one of the things I love to do is to watch the cast members come out. This is a cast entrance right here, and you can see the balloon cast members heading toward Main Street. So this is my story, and there was a meme that I saw in 2024 that said, I told my husband I was going to Starbucks, I just didn't say which one. So I'm going to incorporate all of that into the journaling. And so for the Kelly Bell Designs, I farmed a lot of her collections, and I've got, my title's going to be My Favorite, and then Starbucks Run. And so I pulled some different my favorite sayings, and then I have these alphabets that I'm going to try out. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with this blue one. And then I just printed some embellishments that I can put around the page. So I'm pretty excited about how this is coming together. And then here are my papers. I just did screenshots of the large 12 by 12 images, and then I printed them on letter size paper. I have a large format printer, but I don't need to burn a 13 by 19 piece of paper when I can use this smaller letter size paper.
So one thing I'll say is that it's important to keep the designs original to their size, and I just did a screenshot because I'm going to do paper strips up here and then a thin paper strip across the bottom. I just didn't need the 12 by 12 size image of all of these. So I'm going to put the stripe, I think, in the middle as a thicker strip, and then flank it with a blue and a yellow on each side. So that's kind of what I'm leaning toward on my design. And the reason I am going with the blue is that, number one, I like this font better, and this font comes with upper and lower, and I just don't want a giant, honking title. I want something I can, if I can do some lowercase, it'll help. And let's see what else. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to say about this part. I'm going to do 1/2 inch down here, and then I'm going to take the rest of my length up here. I don't know where that's going to get me, but I do know that I want to come in and have a little bit of a cardstock background. So I audition these different papers, and the problem is I've got a really blue sky, and finding something that matches the paper and will work with the sky, I thought was a little bit challenging. So I'm just kind of showing you. See, I mean, I can't do that when it contrasts with the sky. So then I decided to get out of my blues and go into my aquas, and I found this one, and I felt like, number one, it matched the printed paper I'm using, and it was enough of a contrast with the sky that it didn't bother me. And then I had one last thought, because if you look at these buildings, there's yellow in the paints, and so I don't like yellow a lot. I certainly don't like to feature it, but I thought, well, what if I did a yellow background? And I like that because it doesn't compete with the sky. And then I went with a little softer yellow that, you know, doesn't scream to me as much. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to narrow at this point my cardstock down to this. These are going back into the file, and I won't decide my final matte color until I've got my papers cut and taped down. Now, if you've never done hybrid, this is so funny because I think that clearance price is $3.24. I got it on sale half off yesterday for $8, but I digress. I first started hybrid scrapbooking with Ali Edwards back in 2006, and I took 2 or 3 classes from her, and I just kind of forgot about it. And I have a wide format printer, and I've almost always had one since 2010. I've had one, but for some reason this just feels really different to me. This is not I don't have to work in Photoshop for this. So how this works is you take your image out of your file from Kelly Bell and you just drag it onto your Cameo mat, and then you print it with the registration marks, and then I've got an offset line, and I'm going to feed it back to my Cameo, and my Cameo is going to outline it all. So I need to do that before we move much farther ahead. But this presentation paper, whoops, it's got a brighter side and a darker side, and so you just have to make sure you're using the brighter side. And it comes as high as 5 stars, but 4 stars is you know, good enough for this. So I always have used the Epson premium presentation papers for this for the last 19 years. I've always had Epson printers because they just there was a study. So Henry Wilhelm was a consultant with Creative Memories, and he did a study, and he rated Epson papers and Epson ink as the most archive quality out there. So that's why I've always worked with Epson. So okay, so I'm going to stop chitter chattering right now, and I'm going to cut some paper. We're going to lay it out on our Bazzill white canvas, and we're going to cut out all of these puppies. I'll be back. So I am back, and this is kind of my preliminary layout. The reason why I've got the blue on the edges is because I'm leaning toward the yellow border, even though, you know, it's not my favorite. And so if I'm going to come right here with yellow, I don't want yellow up against yellow. So that's where I'm going, and I'm liking how it looks. I'm going to bump this up a little more before, you know, I do my final cuts. But I'm going to trim my pictures, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Lisa at Life and Layouts, because my goodness, she did those 31 days of, hang on, I got to think about how big I want these pictures. I think 2.5. Okay. She did the 31 days of March Madness, and she just did such a great job. But what I want to get to, the point I want to make, is that she followed up the March Madness with tutorials on how to do this. So if you're not familiar with hybrid scrapbooking or how to cut something on your Cameo, I'm not even going to attempt to do those tutorials, but I'm going to link her channel, because she, man, she just, like I said, she just did such really a great job. So this picture is 3 by 5, and I'm going to trim off some of my watch band. And the other pictures are 2.5 by 2.5 squares. Let's see. I was trying to see what side I wanted. I know the coffee's not centered, but I'm trying to get some of these buildings, and so that's why the coffee's off center. But really, the castle is pretty well centered, and that's the point of the picture, is, you know, coffee with the castle. So that gives me a 3 by 5. And my little pictures are gonna bump up next to it. I don't really want to, I don't care so much about this sky, but I don't want to cover up the tops of the buildings. And I was trying to show that there's shade there, but that may become less pertinent. So that's what we've got. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to refine the cuts on these papers. This was just me laying it out and seeing if I liked it and if I could live with it. And I have to say, I'm pretty excited about it. And I'm going to stitch on all of these papers. I'm going to do a vertical stitch. I'm going to go on both sides of here, and then I'm going to do a stitch here and a stitch here to go up against that. And then I'm going to stitch probably the edges. Whatever's going to make most sense. I mean, options are I could stitch right here or here, but I think if I stitch to the edges, then that kind of carries the texture, the width of the page. Okay, let me go cut paper. I'll show you real quick if you've never worked with this little Creative Memories trimmer. It has an arm that flips out, and so it has fast become one of my favorite little tools. So let's see, I ended up at 8 1/4 on this snip, so I'm gonna go to 8, level it up, and then I'm gonna cut at 7 1/2 for my bottom strip, and that's going to go right there. And I know that this is the width that I want it, so then if I am that short, I might want a little bit more white space. So I'm going to cut it, at 7. Okay, I'm not going to make you watch me cut all these others, but I wanted to talk about the efficiency of this little trimmer and kind of the math that I'm working through. So all of my paper is cut. Man, I watched a video of mine last night and I thought, I'm not going to say so every time I come back, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that already. This is what it's looking like, and I panicked when I laid it down and I thought, oh, it doesn't match the width, but that's because I know that I'm going to trim that. So this is where we are, and I do want to mat these photos. Oh, it'll be a tough decision. But this is the paper I'm thinking. I don't know. Of course, I realize it's hard with this right here. Can you hear my little baby? She loves to chew on toys. Yeah, I think that's better. I think this shade of yellow goes more with this, the depth of the hue of this. This is more vibrant, but so let me trim down my white, and then I'm going to tape down my papers, and then we can decide on our background. You know, the Bazzill loving girl in me kind of wants to double mat it. I don't like, oh wow, that's pretty. Let me get this out of there. Oh yeah, that might be the money. Whoops, my little. So these little strips down here I think are a nice touch. So, okay. This is where we are. So just real quick, I've gutted both of these sheets of cardstock. I made the executive decision, why have one mat when you could have two? And I just wanted to show you gutted. So I cut this one with a margin of 1 inch, and then I cut this one with a margin of 2 inch. And so then my page will go on here like this. And then this is what it'll look like on the back. And sometimes I take, there's a cardstock I have that I got in kits that I don't care for, and so I'll put it on here to reinforce it. But the benefit to this is that you're left with some sizable pieces of cardstock that you can then use for photo mats or titling, or you know, just to have back on hand. So I wanted to show you everything. I've put glue behind my corners that were kind of flapping up, and this is about 1/8 inch of yellow on each side, and this is about 3/8 inch. So my main pattern is an 11 by 11 canvas, and I already shared my dimensions of my photos. 2.5 by 2.5, and then 3 by 5. When it got down to it, the yellow was too much for this much, and the blue didn't work here. So the little bit of yellow, this was tolerable to me, but you know, this up against this was not. So I like it. I think it kind of has a little bit of fanciness that Main Street can have. And what I'm going to do next is mat my photos, which maybe just white. I'll have to test white and see how it looks down here. But I'm going to do my title here, and journaling is going to go up there somewhere. On my stitching, I don't know if I'll do tone on tone. It becomes a problem here because I'm not going to do all those, you know, we're going to do one color here. And so maybe this is white, and then this is yellow, and then this is the blue. I thought about the cobalt blue for a mat here, but again, well, let's see. Oh, actually the sky looks pretty good up against that. So I'm going to go search in my stash for a piece of cardstock that is that cobalt blue, and I think it'll be perfect. And then my title is that blue I'm going to have this blue alpha. So it's coming along. Here's where we are. I did find a suitable blue for my mat. It's a darker blue. It's very similar to this, not quite an exact match. This is the blue in my mind I thought would work, and it did not. And then I thought I would check out my Simple Stories cardstock, and it's too periwinkle. So I went with what I had, and I like it. I wanted to show you these tiny little slivers. I trimmed my mats down. Initially I made my big cut on my big trimmer, but then to refine it I came over here to this, and I just continue to be really impressed with the performance of it. So what do we have next? The next thing is I need to get my title. I need to get it taped down. The original sketch calls for the photo placement to be cattywampus, you know, tilted, and I just wasn't feeling that. I felt like all the lines were pretty straight, and I think it's okay if you tilt one photo, but it's really, in my world, it's hard, you know, to tilt three. Do you tilt one and keep two straight, and then they're all competing with one another? So this is what I did, and my title is going to go here. So let's work on that next. I'm back, and let me bring you up to speed. The title is cut, and I actually cut 4. This is my printed one, and then I cut 3 others. Right down here, I'm going to be able to mostly cover up this cast member that was raining on our balloon parade. I've got my journaling printed out, and this is per the sketch, and so it's going to give me some balance because I've got something up here, down here, and this is my second favorite way to journal. My very most favorite is journaling strips, but when you have so many things to say, it's not really conducive to me to have a bunch of strips. So the other thing about this being in a block is that it gives more of a grounding presence to your journaling. I showed this a while ago, but I didn't really speak about it. I picked these up in 2021 to help with card making and matting card fronts onto bases, but they are so handy on getting your exterior border centered. So if you have an 11-inch paper and then you've got a 1/8 and a 3/8, then you're going to need a 3/8 border. So it's really helpful to me, and I got them on Etsy. The shop is discontinued, but if you search for stamping corners in acrylic, you might find something out there. Okay, so I saved the big reveal for you. I actually peeled it up, and I thought, oh, they would want to see this. So I didn't set these to cut because that was just a color sample. So here we go. Ta-da! What do you think? Look at this adorable little coffee cup. I'm not gonna make you watch me figure out all the placement for everything, but it's a lot of fun. It's really been a lot of fun to find this and experience it. I'm kind of thinking the darker blue for, but maybe it's yellow. I do want to show you real quick on camera how I layer these up. It's not hard at all. I use this Misty Glue precision press, and it is so fast. Oh, am I in frame? Yeah, sorry about that. sometimes when I'm filming, I stand and sometimes I sit. And when I'm doing something like this, I want to sit to be closer to it. But when I'm just talking or showing you things, I don't mind standing. So I always do a color to white first, and then for me, it's easier to line up the subsequent stacks. So you're just going to kind of eyeball it, and then you're just going to start going into the little crevices and smushing it together, and that looks pretty good. So the advantage to doing it this way on something as fussy as this is that you don't have to worry about so many little pieces of foam tape. Now, not to say you couldn't do this and then also do foam. You know, I took a Pink Fresh card event this past weekend, and Carissa Wiley, she uses a lot of foam, and she says, I'm an extra girl. And I thought, oh, you know, let's all be extra girls. That sounds like fun. See how easy it is when you're taking the color to the white? It just, I've tried it before doing the white first. Trust me, it's harder. So, like I said, I'm going to link Lisa's Facebook channel, YouTube channel, Life and Layouts, and I'm going to link, first of all, her March Madness playlist where she does a layout a day, and I think about 90% of them are Disney, and I think 85% of those 90 she uses the Kelly Bell I don't know what to call them, files to create embellishments. Okay, so that's going to go right there. I want to get my embellishments placed first because then that'll define for me my stitching, you know, where I need to stitch and where I don't. For sure, when you have stitching behind something that you're trying to lie flat, you get a little bump, and that's not enjoyable, to get a little bulge. So what do you think? Does this make you want to try some hybrid? The reality is this is the 50th celebration kit, and Disney rolled out new outfits for Mickey and Minnie that year, and it was iridescent, and you would not find these colors in any collection anywhere. You might have some luck piecing together a bunch of Bella Boulevard or maybe even some Lawn Fawn, but the nice thing about going with the Kelly Bell designs is that they're all specifically for Disney, be it the cruise lines or Disneyland or Walt Disney World. And when I saw this 50th celebration set, I was like, oh yes. Now this piece of paper is from a flower festival from Epcot pack, and this is from Meeting the Mouse. But you can see, they all work together, and this stripe actually has 2 shades of yellow. This is darker than that, and that's why I picked 2 shades of yellow. So let me get some embellishments placed, and I'll be right back. I ended up with a lot of yellow. I opted for this My Favorite Saying, and it had said snack originally, so I didn't cut it with the offset on the Cameo because it would have cut the white, around here. And I kind of like it better without the offset anyway. If I change my mind, I can always mat it on a little piece of white cardstock. But I think this is where I'm landing. I toyed with the coffee cup floating or sitting on this little shelf. 50-50 on how it'll end up. And I found these, I don't know if they're stars. I don't know what they are. But I found these in one of the kits, and I thought those would be fun for embellishment clusters. And I'm not super big on flowers, but I do think these have, like a Magic Kingdom feel to them. And I'll pop this up on foam tape, and I'm going to slide that to where it tucks under it slightly, and then I'll use this little mouse to marry that joint. And I went with a larger one here because I wanted the attention drawn up here, and I thought it would look funny there, and down here there's a lot going on and it doesn't need it. Here's just this little flare button that says everything tastes better in Disney, and isn't that the truth? So I think that I'm ready to glue everything down, and then what I'll do is create my stitching lines. I have everything glued down. This guy did not make the cut. Probably would have used it if I had made it a little smaller. It might have gone there nicely, but the flip side is the circle is a nice deviation from all of the rectangles everywhere. On this, my favorite, I already talked about that. I wasn't sure which color. I printed 3. I'm very happy. I did pop up all of the little stars, and I do that by just cutting out my little squares. I think the effect is pretty good, and I'm happy with everything. I ended up adding 1 here flat so that I had 7 down here, and then I've got 3 here, and then 3 up here. So what I need to do next is get my stitching done, and then this will be a wrap. Oh, real quick, I wanted to add that on the glue press, the reason you don't have any slowdown in your work is that the little cap of the gun or the press goes against this suction cup, and it keeps it from clogging up. So it's kind of a silly tool, and it's kind of spendy, but I have loved it ever since. And so when I did all this, it was so easy to do. Also, I did this flat, so there would be a little bit of a step down, and I think that kind of helps that corner.
I'm here to show you the final layout. When I was looking at what I was going to work on next, I happened across the note I had about the Kelly Bell Design Challenge for May, and I'm glad I checked, because the challenge said you had to have a minimum of 4 photos and that you had to have Main Street somewhere on the layout. So I thought long and hard about if I wanted to make any changes or just consider this done and forget about posting it to the challenge. And so I went back and I looked at my pictures that I use photos in Mac, and when I had gone farming for all of these pictures, I tagged them all, or I put in the caption Quiet Street, and then I made a little album. So it wasn't hard for me to go back and find these pictures, because I'll be honest and say these and this were all taken on completely different days. The date I gave the journaling is the date of the main feature photo. So I thought, okay, this picture here does support the story. It's looking at Quiet Street from Main Street. And if you look closely, you can see down here the little canopied tables that we sit at. Now, if you're not familiar with this, it's not going to mean anything to you, but it means something to me, and that's okay. So I thought, well, this little picture could support the story, and I could tuck it in here. This popped up a little bit, but it'll flatten under a page protector. and I made it smaller. So I think these are 2.5 by 2.5, and I made this 2 by 2 because it's not the feature photo. It adds to the Main Street charm with the buildings and the brick street. And then I had this Main Street word flare in one of Kelly Bell's kits. I found like 5, and I just kind of played with them, but I just wanted it to be really simple. And I mean, it can be like a subtitle because I didn't want it up here. I felt like that would be too much between this, and this. So I feel like the changes I made hold to the original design. And the last change I made was this. The longer I looked at all of this pale blue, pale blue, pale blue, pale blue, it felt overwhelming. It felt like it took it over. And so I pulled the same cardstock that I matted with, and I'm very happy. I feel like it grounds the page more. It pulls into this, and I'm pleased with it. So I popped this little guy up, and then I just went in and trimmed the blue to 11 1/4 all the way around. And then that gave me 1/4 inch of this showing. And I didn't bother to gut this because I had gutted this, and there was a big opening on the back. And I thought, you know what? It can be okay. I'm talking all the time about Bazzill going out of business and not having enough Bazzill, and then I burn 4 sheets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I mean, it is what it is. I'm going to read you the journaling. There was a meme that went around that said, I told my husband I was going to Starbucks. I just didn't say which one. Oh my, this really resonated with me. Whenever we hit the parks, as soon as we can fit in a break, we head to Starbucks. Magic Kingdom is the best because while Steve orders, I go scope out a table for us on the quiet street. We learned about this street on the Keys to the Kingdom tour, and it's had my heart ever since. I love to hear the voice lessons going on upstairs, and be still my heart when a cast member walks out with a bunch of balloons. It's just the best way to start any day. My absolute favorite Starbucks run. So I think that is enough for this layout, and I appreciate you hanging out with me. The last day of school here is tomorrow, and Memorial Day is coming up. Now, I don't know when this video is going to post, but I hope you've got some fun plans for summer, and it's about to get unhinged out there. All the kids are going to be out, and the teachers are going to be out, and the school bus isn't going to be running. So summer is a great time to go to Disney. Thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. I'll be back soon with more layouts, videos, and a little stash busted magic. So please come back and crop with me. Until next time, happy scrapping, and remember, this is where paper meets story. Bye-bye.